I started talking to Dan and Adrian about Clever Nelly, for me it was a no-brainer that this thing really worked. So I want to talk to you a little bit today about kind of some of the things that Nelly does and why they work with the way that our brains work. Neuroplasticity is just, neuro is the components of the brain, plasticity is how they can change. And if you're going to learn anything new, something in your brain has to change. And what you can see is the more new things you do, the more new neurons your brain creates for you. And this is true in mice, but it's also true in humans. So any organization that's giving their employees opportunities to learn new things, where neurons connect up with one another, where they're connecting up into networks, you get these gaps called the synapse. So we've got a branch of one neuron coming down, we've got a gap, and then we've got that kind of dip, which is the beginning of a new neuron. And at that junction, the first neuron releases a neurochemical, which goes across to the next neuron in the chain and changes the electrical activity in the next neuron in the chain. And it turns out that that gap is one of the most important things in our ability to learn. What the brain is assuming is that there is going to be new learning every day, and rather than waiting for that new learning to occur and building a synapse for that new learning, it's giving you 20% new synapses that you can do what you want with. It's assuming that learning will happen. So it's proactive, not retroactive. It's not waiting. So you've got all that potential and you haven't used it for anything. And again, I think this is where, Nelly gives people the opportunity to actually do something with that capacity that's sitting there waiting for you. So you think what Nelly's doing. I'm going to get 3 questions a day and I'm going to learn them. So you've created the habit of the learning occurring, but every time the questions come, they're new, or they're ones that you haven't yet grasped. So there's still learning to do, but you've made it easy for the brain to recognize this is the time at which I learn. That's one of the reasons that we love learning so much, is because we get that reward from being curious. Emotional engagement, the higher the emotional content of something, the more likely you are to learn it. Repetition. Repetition increases learning. The more you see something, the more often you're exposed to it, the more your brain goes, oh, this must be important. I've seen this now several times. And so it will start creating something that's really permanent to hold the information. Collaboration and competition, we like being social reward. Now, you recognize that these are all things that drive people to interact with Nelly. And this is why Nelly works, is because it's got all of those things already incorporated into it to make it work.